And the Y'all Show is back on with you with a whole new year of broadcasting about the Southeast and more. I'm John Rawl, and it is great to have you as our first report of 2021 being filed right now. So if you've missed us for the last couple of weeks, we're back up and going here for the new year. And boy, oh boy, do we need this next guest to come on and bring us a little laughter and a little news from Music Row 2. This is our Nashville Music Report now coming to you on the Y'all Show with John Rawl. And Preshias Harris is who we go to for all the good stuff on Music Row. Preshias has been working on Music Row and in the music business for many, many decades, and she is the author of I Know Country. That has 366 daily country music questions that you can order right now. Go to iknowcountry.com. Also, she is a music development consultant. She works on Music Row, and her website for that is collegeofsongology.com, and also Nashville Music Line. And Preshias Harris, our lady on Music Row, is on with us right now on Y'all. Hey, Preshias, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to me, too.
Yeah,
It's good news already today, so I'm excited.
Well, I want to hear your good news, but first let's start off with some breaking news. Preshias, as you have filed this at Nashville Music Line, and that is the story of these bad boys right here, a delay with the Grammy Awards. Fill us in.
Well, California apparently is the hottest spot in the nation, because of the COVID-19. But they had already put no audience in place when they made the announcement for the awards in January. It's supposed to happen January 21st. So that was already in place. But because of the pandemic in California and specifically in Los Angeles County, where the Grammys are held, is to the point of being dangerous. I mean, when you have patients that are waiting in ambulances until a room is available for the hospital and turning away patients who virtually have 10% chance of surviving. It's really bad. So I have to give kudos to the Grammys for postponing it for another 2 months. So hopefully we can catch our breath on some of these things with the pandemic. But once again, the Grammys have been a role model and a leader about moving it, and which is really, really good. And I'm very, very proud of them. And of course, I've got some things. Especially Nashville always has a really good show at the Grammys on the divisions of Best Country Song and Best Country Album. So we may have to wait a little while to see some of our fellow neighbors here on Music Row get their Grammys, but it's going to be worth it.
Again, postponed until March 14th. Preshias, now I know that wasn't good news. So what in the world was your good news that you were just chomping at the bit to tell us?
Loretta Lynn has a new record out.
Oh, the coal miner's daughter, your fellow Kentuckian?
Yes, sir.
Why don't we take a quick look at that new record that you speak of, Preshias? Are you ready for the unveil here on the Y'all Show?
I sure am.
All right, here we go. Look at there. Still woman enough.
I know, and she's the queen of country music. And she looks like a queen on that chair, doesn't she?
She looks beautiful.
I know. She sure does. Look at that pretty guitar. Ooh, looks like
I wasn't looking at the guitar. I was looking at her, Preshias.
I was looking at her too, but my eyes moved over to the hummingbird guitar. I think it looks like a Gibson guitar. It looks like a hummingbird. It's strange that I know what guitars look like, but I can't balance my checkbook. But that's for spending 30 years at the NAMM show in Nashville and LA. So.
Well, unlike me, Preshias, kudos to you. You've got incoming, all mine's outgoing, so therefore I don't even have to balance my checkbook.
Oh, well, but this way, I don't leave it up to chance anymore like I used to when I was a teenager. But now that I'm a businesswoman, I have to do things like that. So, but yeah, Miss Loretta, she's got Carrie Underwood on a record, Tanya Tucker, and Margot Price. I'm not surprised at who she chose because they're all people that she has already been a part of with them and other musical things and shows and stuff like that. So she's given a good show of the country females and what they call, like, I know that Miss Price is Americana artist, but she still crosses over into some of the indie country charts and some of the indie stations. So I was glad she got her because I'm actually a pretty good fan of hers. So way to go, Miss Loretta. And the pre-order is at lorettalynn.com too, before I forget.
Loretta Lynn, 88 years young. She'll be turning 89 in April, and a great early birthday present. In fact, Precious, she might be nearly 89 years old, but she did something that a millennial would do in announcing this week this new album, the release date for Still Woman Enough. She went on Twitter to announce this.
Yeah, I'm sure she had some help with some of her kids, I'm sure.
Oh, come on now. Don't say that she couldn't have done this by herself.
Well, I mean, she is very savvy when it comes to doing things like that. So, but yeah, she may, somebody else might be pushing the buttons from Miss Loretta Lynn. That's what you see is her,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But anyway, but it comes out March the 19th, which is almost the first day of spring. So what a great way to kick off the spring for sure here in Nashville is an album drop by Miss Loretta.
Precious, let's talk about a good-looking lady that's a few years younger than Loretta Lynn, and that's a Tennessee girl, Dolly Parton. She's in the news with something she's doing with a guy from the Bee Gees, of all people.
Yes. Well, Barry, actually got a picture of Barry. I didn't get a picture with him, but I took a picture of him and my friend that works with John Conley. But we were backstage at the Opry about 3 or 4 years ago, and he took a picture with the project I was working on. But he loves country music. And then of course they had the house in Hendersonville, which was Johnny Cash's house, which ended up catching fire, and I wasn't able to save it, unfortunately. But he's been here for a while, in Nashville involved. And I know that actually, when I met him, T.G. Shepherd and his wife had brought him out to the Opry as a special guest. But you're in Nashville and you've got Chris Stapleton's producer, Dave Cobb, producing you, and you've got some of the very much, it's a broad spectrum of artists that he's added to his album, like Jason Isbell and Miranda and Sheryl Crow and Olivia Newton-John, and of course, her being an Aussie too, Keith, Brandy Gillian Welch, and that's a name you probably haven't heard in a while, but she's been around for years and just had a new album drop earlier this year, I think. But she's very much a Renaissance woman, if there's anything like that, because I remember hearing her music on stations when I first moved to town in the 1990s. So good to see her on here too.
Gotcha. All right. Well, now you're talking about Barry Gibb as he's joined forces with people like Dolly Parton on this new version of a beloved Bee Gees song, Words. And you talked about having a photo with Barry Gibbs. How about this picture I'm about to show you of Barry and that aforementioned Dolly Parton? Would love to have been a fly on that wall.
Oh, me too. Look at it. I think that's probably in Cobb's studio from the way the back of the staircase is. That's where it looks like it's at.
Where is that studio?
Right across the street.
That's what I was wondering. Is that the one across from your office?
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah, I see your car there in the background parked illegally. You're absolutely right.
For me, the first time I parked illegally.
Yeah. Precious, let's talk about somebody who probably has parked illegally to come in and see you. Elvie Shane, as this Wheelhouse Records artist, someone you've worked with, has premiered a new music video for his debut single, My Boy. Tell me about this guy, Elvie Shane. My boy. Your boy. Our boy.
Our boy, yes, our boy. Elvie, I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. Of course, he's got signed a Broken Bow, and I have a picture back here on this wall of me and Elvie and his beautiful wife, Mandy, signing his deal. But it's so funny because the actual video director, which is Peter Zabadil, has actually worked with my husband many, many times. And if I would have loved to told him, oh, by the way, you need a storyboard, you need to contact, 1 degree of separation. But anyway, but he actually went back to his hometown in Grayson County, which is the county next to our county in Kentucky.
That would be in Kentucky, yeah.
In Kentucky, or Edmonson County, that's Grayson County. And there's been like this ongoing tug of war with something called a tobacco stick. And this goes back 55 years at least. Because I remember in high school, and I've been out of high school 40 years. And we used to, whoever won kept the tobacco stick into the next season on the last game they played of the season. But, it's so intertwined. A lot of my cousins are in Grayson County. And my sister actually reads Elvie Shane's parents' water meter, which is really funny. But it's such a very, very small town. But he's actually. I knew that TikTok is just made it just explode, and there is some things about it releasing it 2018. He did release it just as as a self release out there because everybody was just demanding it in 2018. And then he got his record deal in 2019 in February, and then they've been getting it ready to set up. And of course you have to go through what I call the revolver, the music row when singles are released, and to give Elvie the best chance of success, they released it earlier this year, even though during the pandemic. But they were very smart. They came up with a virtual radio tour. So he played a full band show across the United States radio stations for I think it was like 6 weeks he did a tour. And I thought, that's ingenious. So he's still got to promote the single safely and for the fans to be able to hear it. And then I think last thing I looked, it's got like what they call impressions, and that could be everything from streaming and downloads and TikTok. But it was up to like 775 million impressions, which is a lot. But now I think he's the top downloaded single, Spotify's top viral 50 or something like that. But it's up into the millions. I mean, millions and millions, not just like a couple of million. I mean, on up, which tickles the flip right out of me because I'm so excited for him, a little buddy.
All right, again, new music out, and we're always excited to be featuring all the good stuff from Preshias Harris here on Y'all Talk with a Southern Accent. And we've got time now on the show to switch over and do a little trivia. And Preshias helps us with our Q&A on that each and every time she comes on. And we're going to keep it in the bluegrass, Preshias, if you don't mind with our trivia question right now. It was on January 8th back in 1991, 30 years ago. The mayors of both Ashland, Kentucky and Flatwoods, Kentucky declared a day to honor this singer a year after he signed his first recording artist with record with Mercury Records. He went on to become a well-known singer and an actor and also a famous father. Who is this person that again was honored in Ashland and Flatwoods, Kentucky? And y'all, if you don't know this one, you need some help. We'll have the answer to this trivia question momentarily here as we continue our conversation with Preshias Harris, our maven on Music Row. Preshias, let's talk about a guy that I when I saw this artwork come over, I instantly thought of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm sure there's a good reason, but Blaine Howard, we're here in the middle of the playoffs for the NFL right now. What's going on with Blaine Howard and his recently released music, as he was born in Kansas, raised in Arkansas? So I think my kind of putting together that this might have a connection to those Chiefs might have something to do with the fact that he was born in Kansas.
Yeah, well, he was born in Kansas, raised in Arkansas.
Oh.
And he's actually got a couple of, he's actually already had one song on a hit in Arkansas for the actual Razorbacks on their college team there. And but yeah, he was actually in my office for like 6 or 7 months recording, not this last record, but he actually had just finished doing his second album out when he was in the office. And so I've got a couple of songs out on the radio that he co-wrote with my clients. That's in the last about 3 or 4 years ago. But anyway, he when he did the video in 1 week, it was 450,000 views. So I think that was a nod to say, you're on to something. But when I did actually try to get him a record deal, but they needed a little bit more music to take him to the next level, and it didn't happen. But the producer that produced his second record is Jordan Reynolds, and that's the guy that's he wrote his wedding song, I Promise to Love Her, which is like into the millions of views now, as a gift to his wife. But he wrote that with Jordan Reynolds, who also wrote 10,000 Hours and Tequila and Speechless. But, he's in some good circles, so hopefully this will be just a notch in the belt to help him get to where he wants to be as an artist, because he is an incredible singer and incredible writer. So kudos to my little Jordan.
And again, I referenced those Kansas City Chiefs. Here's the reason for that reference. Blaine Howard, Run It Back. And yes, those Chiefs inspired this song here. And this video for this song has garnered over 450,000 views, and that was just in 1 week. And then it's available now to download if you'd like it. And with the Chiefs being your defending Super Bowl champs, getting ready for perhaps another Super Bowl championship, yes, this KC fan is all about those Chiefs. And you can take a listen to Run It Back from Blaine Howard if you like and support his favorite NFL team.
And he's worth supporting. He's a good kid, a good husband, and a wonderful father.
All right.
So, yeah, thumbs up to Mr. Blaine.
And all the people in Nashville can say to you, Blaine, is tighten up.
Close.
Yeah.
Close.
Well, yeah, it's close. All right, Precious. Let's continue the fun here. Speaking of the Middle Tennessee area, Murfreesboro's own Chris Young will remember this past year for more than the pandemic. The multi-platinum entertainer and recording artist for RCA Nashville has accumulated a bunch of heavy metal, you might say. And we're going to take a look at some of that success here from Chris Young. And there's a nice picture of the Murfreesboro kid there, Rutherford County. And he, according to RIAA, 8 total certifications for him with over 7 million consumption units across several projects. Those certifications, Precious, include the single Tomorrow, 2 times platinum, the album I'm Coming Over, platinum, singles that were all platinum or more, or somewhere in that stratosphere, Lonely Eyes, Voices, Drowning, Raised on Country, Hanging On, and I Can Take It From There, all with either gold or platinum certification from Rio. Way to go, Chris Young.
Yes, I'm very proud. Like I said, I remember seeing him at talent competitions in the early 2000s. So he's been at it since he was like in high school. So he's not just, of course, y'all met him through Nashville Star, but he had been around a while. But 21, I think he's had 11 career #1 singles. So that's not a bad little nod from some local boy who. But I knew the first time I heard him sing that he was going to do something. He just acted. He just had that it factor. And of course, it does help when you make friends and your best buddies are great songwriters like Johnny Bufford. Is one of his co-writers, and he's had a big hit with Brad Paisley. But anyway, and Lee Brice, he's got a couple of them. But I judged him in a talent competition in Florida 15 years ago. And he actually won the Florida and ended up winning the country showdown at the finals and won. Back then it was $100,000, I think. But yeah, so Chris has surrounded himself with some really, really good people and, hit writers and people that really believe in him. And that's what you got to do. You got to have a team around you. It's really hard to, chase your dreams when when you don't have a good team around you. And he does, thank goodness. RCA has done really well by doing that.
Got a good team and obviously selling plenty of records. Kudos to Chris Young. This is the Y'all Show. We are continuing our conversation with Preshias Harris here. If you have a question or comment about country music and you'd like Preshias to weigh in, feel free right now in the comments to fire away. We'd get that on to her while we're wrapping up our conversation about all things country music and more. Preshias, let's go to that trivia question, if you don't mind, where 30 years ago, the mayors of Flatwoods and Ashland, Kentucky came together to honor one of their local fellows with an award to honor him with all the success he had with that tremendous debut. Oh, Preshias, I don't know who in the world would go from Flatwoods, Kentucky to stardom. Who would that be?
Mr. Billy Ray Cyrus.
Billy Ray Cyrus, you mean Miley's daddy?
Miley Daddy. I was actually there in that circle at the time. Right. Yes, I had became friends with the publicist of the label due to helping with some other projects I was involved with while I was in Belmont. And her name was Sandy Neese, and she was behind the secret of breaking the Achy Breaky single. She came up with the idea to send it out. There used to be a company out of Alpharetta, Georgia called Dixie Dance Kings. And they used to send CDs to all the dance clubs in the South when two-stepping and line dancing was all the rage in the 2000s. And she had actually got someone to make up the dance and to actually incorporated that single into the clubs across the South before it ever went to radio. So when it did hit radio, it was like, boom, what is now what we call trending or something like that. It just exploded, and he reaped the rewards. But I remember doing an interview with him early on, and he said the first year at the CMA Awards, he got to go. He was in the nosebleed section, so high up that he everybody looked like they were like that tall on the stage. And then the next year, of course, he was winning Single of the Year, Best New Male Artist of the Year, things like that. So um, that was what they call the golden days of Mercury. And they had the Headhunters and had Shania Twain and, like I said, Billy Ray Cyrus. And
Sammy
I think
Kershaw.
Sammy Kershaw, yeah, Harold Shedd, I think, is the one who signed the Headhunters to the label. I remember that because I was an FFA with Doug, the bass player for the Headhunters,
Mm,
and of course,
poor guy.
poor guy. No, like here's Grayson County. Below Grayson County is Edmonson County, where me and Shannon McCombs is from. Then to the right, if you're facing the state, is Barron County, and then Metcalfe County. But that's where we all, like I said, we were on the what they call the Barron River Region FFA, which is the regional FFA. So, it was really funny to see someone that you were met in high school, and doing competitions with, and then full circle find out that you've been in the same room at the same place, didn't know who they were.
You know
But
that
anyway,
FFA is all about the F, and FFA is about farming, right? It ain't about the fellas.
oh, I know. Believe me, I was teased so bad it was pathetic,
Okay. Just wanted
terrible.
to make sure if you were there just for the fellows, you were in the wrong organization. Well, Achy Breaky Heart was a huge hit in 1991 for Billy Ray Cyrus. What are some of the big hits in mainstream country right now? Well, Precious, we have the top 5 going on in country radio. Luke Bryan and Down to One at 5. Parker McCollum's Pretty Heart is getting 2021 off in the right way at number 4. Lady Antebellum with Champagne Night. Chris Stapleton at 2 with Starting Over. He and his wife co-wrote that big song right now that's all over the radio. And Luke Combs back again at number 1 with Better Together, and that is your top 5 mainstream country song playlist according to CDX Traction. There was no Billboard report for us here this week as we're just getting 2021 off, and therefore that is why we have this coming to us from CDX, which is a very, very key way of distributing the country music to radio stations. Now, Precious, while we're talking about some industry and some insider stuff, I know you want to say something about NSAI, a shameless plug for that organization, so feel free to take this moment for that shameless plug.
Well, you do know I am a life member of NSA, and I have been since I was 21, and I'm 58, so do the math. But because I've been a part of them since my early days in the music industry here, I've seen some of the wonderful work they did, and my mother had made some bad mistakes on not knowing a lot about the songwriting business and ended up losing her publishing and things like that. So that's probably why that it's one of the things that I really care about and cherish is helping the people understand, especially these aspiring singer songwriters, is that even though you may not have had a hit, those songs that you're writing could become hits. And if you keep your publishing, it's like money in the bank. And I've had one of my clients who wanted a publishing deal, and I'm not going to tell you what song because it'll let it out, and I can't do that, confidential. But I prayed that he wouldn't get rid of his publishing. He had never had anything done, never had a single on the radio. It was his first one out, but he got a lucky with a friend from his state of Georgia and wrote a song with this artist, and it became a single, the third single, and it sold, I think, 2 million copies and counting. But he's made about 300,000 just off of his publishing alone. Um, and so it's very important that even though you have nothing going on and you just happen to get someone to cut your song, you never know because of the way that music is, if it's going to hit or stay or wherever. But it's so important to have your publishing. It's like money in the bank. But NSAI actually helped educate my mother back then on some of the things that she could do to protect herself and her copyrights and things like that. And they've got a special going on, 21% off of if you want a life membership or if you want a yearly membership and things. They got easy payment plans, so it's very affordable. If you truly want to be a songwriter, NSAI encourages, educates, and empowers songwriters, and that's why that I'm such a cheerleader for them too.
Sounds good. We're going to talk some history here momentarily with you, Precious, as we wrap up our conversation with you on today's Y'all Show. And we're also going to talk about one of your kinsmen, as your kinsman sadly passed away a few years ago this week. We'll tell you who that is in just a moment. But let me tell you about Shenandoah, Precious. We're going to learn a little bit more about their new record, but you wanted to point out that their latest project that came out in 2020 was one of the real positive things that we saw arriving in country music last year, because they work with a lot of great artists in putting out this latest effort. Marty and Mike and everybody with their great release that they had in 2021. Was it Every Road, I think was called?
Yes, every road.
Okay. I'm going to
Yeah.
have show a picture of it in just a second. But yeah, of course, you'll never hear me complaining about you bragging on Shenandoah, so go for it.
Well, like I said, I knew that they actually was working on it for a while. Um, they're the vice president of their label and I became friends a couple of years ago at or started talking, and we ended up meeting and becoming friends uh, at the Christmas for Kids. And of course, Marty was there, him and Mike and some of the guys from Shenandoah to help with the kids, on the Christmas for Kids thing. And we've kept in contact, so I knew that it was been in the works. But you know how crazy that this year has been and weird. But can you imagine trying to work on schedules with Luke, Blake Shelton, Ashley McBride, Dirk Bentley, Lady A, Zach Brown, Carly Pierce, Cody Johnson, and Brad Paisley to have them appear on this album with as crazy as their tour schedules was, for it to be finished and out is like a working miracle. But once again, everybody grew up that's in that list grew up with Shenandoah, and they're just part of the country music fabric and have been for since they've had their first album out. But and their muscle shows Alabama, so they got the true Southern songs that are out. But like I said, they awards out the yin yang, nominations out the yin yang, and there they are. That's them.
With
Yep,
Every Road.
every road, and it just makes me happy because I love all the artists on the record. But when you put them together with one of your favorite groups, um, you know, it was just icing on the cake for 2020 when I saw it, to realize that it was going to be released. Um, but I can't say enough good things because I know that this was definitely it's 10 songs, of course, but it's definitely been a work of love and dedication and just friendship, because everybody on this record, I actually helped them get connected to an artist or two on this record. Um, but of course, Buddy Cannon produced it, which he produces Kenny Chesney.
And he was
But
their original producer back in the 80s.
yes, he was, and so that was a full circle type thing, and I'm just so excited. Like I said, it is one of the best albums of the year, and probably going to be in my top playlist for the rest of my life.
All right. Again, Buddy Cannon. Precious, I just happened to go down the Buddy Cannon Highway the other day. Do you know where that is located?
Yes.
It's in Henderson County, Tennessee, not far from Lexington, Tennessee, just off of I-40. If you ever hit the road to Memphis and you want to ride on a good highway, get off of I-40 and get on that Buddy Cannon Highway right there in his home area in West Tennessee. And like I said, he worked with Kenny Chesney. You said that. He worked with Shenandoah down in Muscle Shoals when they first came out. And what a great producer, and good to see that he and Shenandoah teamed up again. Hey, Precious, speaking of Muscle Shoals and Florence, Alabama, let's talk about one of their native sons, if you don't mind, because Sam Phillips of Florence, Alabama, back in 1950, he went to Memphis, and it was this week in 1950, only 80, what was that, 70 years ago, he opened up, no, 70, yeah, 70.
You're
Sorry,
asking me.
I better get my math right here. He opened up Sun Records this week in 1950, 51. Sorry, it was 71 years ago. Now that we've reached 2021, but yeah, that right there on Union Avenue, just up from Bill Street, not too far from some of the hospitals where Nathan Bedford Forrest was buried for a long time. Right there, Sun Records opened, and of course we know what happened there. Just a few years after that opening in 1950, a fellow named Elvis came in there and recorded. Of course, Johnny Cash and Carl Perkins and more. Sun Records opening up this week. Precious, this next history item a little sad for you because this week back in 2014, Phil Everly passed away, and that was one of your kinsmen.
Yes, and somebody asked me how we're kin, and how we're kin is my great grandfather is named Euclid Embry, and their their great grandfather was called Luatris Embry. So their grandfather and my great grandfather are brothers. So their mother and my grandmother are first cousins. So that makes us third cousins. I'm still claiming it because I love them. You can go down three cousins and you're still kin, sort of like England.
Yeah, Precious, I don't believe y'all are actually kin, and that is unless you sing "Dream, Dream, Dream" real quick. Let me hear if there's a
Well,
correlation.
no, I'm the business. My mother was the artist. My dad was the singer. But the funny thing is the picture, and I don't know if I can show it to you. It's up there, but I have. When I first met them, I was 17. I hadn't seen them since Uncle Blue's funeral when I was like four, I think 3 or 4. Anyway, but I had a picture and I called their manager at the time, Judy Newby, and I said, "Hey, I found this picture that it was their great aunt. I think it was their aunt gave it to me. Their aunt, my great aunt, and she gave me the picture, and it's been used on a lot of the documentaries that's done on the Everly Brothers. It's Dawn was 9, no, Dawn was 11, and Phil was 9, and it was taken in Shenandoah, Iowa, at a radio station. It's actually up there in the corner of my office, and I'm too short to get it. But anyway, and so Phil, I showed it to Phil first because Dawn was back. We were backstage at Kentucky State Fair,
Yeah.
and Judy introduced me, and Phil looked at the picture and he said, "Where did you get this at?" I said, "My great aunt gave it to me." He said, "We thought it got lost in the fire because I guess her house had burned down, which I didn't know." Um, but and he said, "I can't believe you have this photo." And so he didn't realize that I had one made for him and one for Don. And he came over to there and he said, "Don, come here." And he motioned him over there. And I didn't recognize Don because he did not look, he didn't have the stage clothes on, so I'm going to say. Uh, anyway, he came over and he said, "Hey, she's our cousin. Look what she's got." He said, "Everybody's our cousin," sort of smart alecky like. And when he saw the picture, he goes, "Wow." And they were both so happy that I returned the picture, not the original, it's in a safety deposit box, but that I returned it back to them, that they were so grateful. And I said, "I don't want to be a girl." And they go, "What?" I said, "Can I just have a picture that I prove that I got this picture back to you?" And so I got one picture and I look like 80s ladies with all my hair all curly and too much makeup, too much, no, too much. Anyway, but they were glad to get it. But matter of fact, I was showing the picture to my husband's friends in England,
Yeah.
and sorry, I'm off key. I'm trying to keep straight. My chair's falling. Anyway, they look and they go, "That's the picture that was at the Royal Albert Hall on the backdrop." I'm like, "What?" They go, "This picture was on the Royal Albert Hall." So apparently, 10 or 12 years or later, they had taken that picture and actually had it fixed as a media thing to use at their concerts. And we were watching a documentary the other day on NPR or something, my husband and I, and Mike goes, "Honey, look." And it started zooming in on their dad, Ike, who was playing the harpsichord. And sure enough, it was the picture I'd given them. They had used it on the documentary. So, but yeah, but I've been decided, I have a really, really good copy. I've given, not everybody gets one, it's just special people. Like, I was interning at BNA and I had given it to my very first person who gave me a job because he was such a huge collector named Jim Delacroce. And this guy came in there. His name is Max D. Barnes, and he was a songwriter. Of course, he's passed on now. He walked in. He goes, "Where in the H did you get that picture?" And he goes, "Precious gave it to me." And he asked me to come in there and tell him what. He said, "I was on that talent show in Shenandoah, Iowa, and because they were kids, they beat me." And so he had actually, Mr. Hit Writer, not Children's, he made the children's song. I have to look back. He's got Max D. Barnes and Max T. Barnes.
Yeah.
But, it's just stories like that people, even though that they were considered a rock and roll and they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all that, they were still very much has the country roots. And their mother still lives in Forest Hills here in Nashville. She's 100 years old.
Gosh.
She turned 100, I think, in November.
That's great. Hey, speaking of birthdays, Precious, this also, as we wrap up with you, some key people in music with birthdays this week. Of course, we don't want to leave out the king, Elvis Presley, with his birthday, January 8th, as he was born in Tupelo, as we well know, back in 1935. So Elvis would be, 86 years young if he were still with us. Also, birthdays this week. A good Kentuckian, Patty Loveless, with a birthday. Dina Carter, who grew up in the Hendersonville area of Nashville, with a birthday this week. We mentioned him before, the founder of Sun Records, and Florence, Alabama's own Sam Phillips was born this week in 1923. Earl Scruggs of Flatt and Scruggs with a birthday this week. Jolly Jack Green, there goes my only possession. Yeah, that Jack Green with a birthday, the late, I think is he still alive?
No, he died. I actually was one of the few people that was allowed to see him before he got really, really bad. No, he passed away, but he helped me with my chicken soup for the country. So
okay, I couldn't remember. He's one of those Grand Ole Opry singers that, frankly, it's not national news, sadly, or big national news when someone like that passes away. David Lee Murphy, Mr. Party Crowd, and Dust on the Bottle with a birthday this week. John Rich, your buddy, with a birthday here, as John Rich is now 47 years young and looks like he's still about 16 years old. And another Kentucky girl, as we wrap up with Precious, happy birthday, Crystal Gale. She turns 70 years old on January 9th. Precious, thank you so much for everything you do. Again, iknowcountry.com is the website. Also, check out Nashville, the great website she's got with more great information that you can go to, and that is NashvilleMusicLine.com and collegeofsongology.com. Precious, great to catch up with you here in 2021, and we look forward to catching up with you again in just a few days.
And hopefully I'll have some more good news. I got something. I can't announce it yet, but I will. I promise. And I can.
We're on the edge of our seat. Everybody, one more time, our insider on Music Row, Preshias Harris. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Bye.
All right, and we'll have more of the Y'all Show coming up right here. Don't go anywhere, y'all.